Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on my channel here. Today we are installing Chill Out Warm Floor. It's my first time using the product. I'm pretty excited about it. It's electric heat, but it's low voltage, high efficiency. First step, after you figure out how much of a area you have to cover, for me this is a 10 by 18 foot room. That used to be a garage. 8-foot ceilings. When I spoke with my rep, who these guys are really polite, professional, helpful, he said I was going to need 3 zones. So I've got 2 power supplies mounted already. I'm using these 1/4-inch lag bolts, and I'm about to install the 3rd one. I don't know if this has to be the first step, but this is what I've decided to make the first step. I pre-wired individual outlets for each of the heating units. They're on their own circuit. Each unit, I think, draws 3 amps, so we have a grand total of 9 here. I have 20 amps. So it's overkill, but, you know, what's my motto? If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing, right? So let me get this 3rd one mounted. They're pretty heavy, probably in the, I don't know, 20 to 30 pound range. So I'm going to need both my hands for this. And you don't need to see me drive a screw, that's boring. So I just picked some random measurements out of my head. The closet was 44 inches. So I decided to start by mounting one in the middle at 22 inches. And then I just split up the difference. So 11 inches and 11 inches. And then once I came up with my width, I wanted to come in under the receptacle so I could run the cords neatly. So I just measured below the receptacle. I had 26 inches of clearance, so I chose 25. So I did 25 for the height. And after I get the first screw in, or lag bolt rather, I get the level on there, and I just level it up so it'll look pretty. And put the other screws in. These ears are plastic, so I'm just snugging it up until it kisses the plastic. I am not torquing these all the way down. Okay. All right, I'm going to call that step 1. The rep I spoke with, his name was Joe Myers. He was extremely helpful and cooperative. Good guy. He was nice enough to send me this layout, which if you look is just a bunch of strips, 3 power supplies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runs, 5 runs, and then 3 runs. I think I might do like 4, 5, and 4, or something along those lines. I don't know. Instead of just having only 3 on the one power supply and 5 on the other 2. But he gave me everything I needed. Pair of crimpers, which you'll see what they're for. All the hardware and the crimps. 2 rolls of wire. And the 3 power supplies. So now I'm certain I have my supplies, so I'm confident to start the job. However, I don't know for sure that I have enough of the matting. So just to see what I'm dealing with, I'm going to unroll it all out first and lay it out on the floor to make sure I can get complete coverage. And then once I know that I have everything I need, I will then start the job. Always make sure you have everything before you start. That way you won't get stuck having to go to the store. Maybe the store closed because it's getting late and you wind up having to leave electricity shut off overnight, God knows what. So make sure you got everything you need before you get started. And now phase 2, which was sweeping and vacuuming the floor. It's got to be surgically clean. I don't want to put the heat over the top of anything and then have lumps and bumps under the heat. So I'm going to start laying out the heat. I'm going to unroll it, cut it to length, and I will see if I have enough to cover the entire floor. If not, the manufacturer says you can have up to a 4-inch gap in between lengths. So I may have to spread it out a little bit to make it cover well. I'm going to keep it from the edge because I want to leave room for the tack strip for when the carpet goes in over this floor. They recommended stapling it down. Like I said, I'm going to just unroll it to see if I have enough to cover the whole floor. And then depending on what I have, I will space it out accordingly and start stapling. So here's the product. This is what's actually going to make the heat. This is called Chill Out by Warm Floor. Hope I'm getting this right. And it's a rubber mat. Got some wires inside it here. Some wires here. They run end to end. And then I believe there are elements filling in the gap left to right. And all you do, according to the manufacturer, is you unroll it and you cut it to length. They say you can use regular scissors. I am going to use tin snips just because it's what I have. Also, if there is wire in there, I know there's wire here and here. You need some pretty tough scissors to not dull them. So I'm staying away from the wall, maybe about 4 inches. That'll leave room for the foam rubber, for the carpet, the tack strip, and then the rug. And I'm going to unroll this and cut it to length and just keep doing that over and over again until the whole floor is hopefully covered. So I just wanted to show you real quick. Stuff is very flexible, pliable, relatively lightweight, and look how easily this cuts. It's a thing of beauty, really. So far the product is very easy to work with. I've heard nothing but good things, but now I'm seeing good things. So you can probably see I left little to no space. I'm even a little bit close to the wall here. I'm just gonna start at this end. I'm gonna move it to about 4 inches from the wall and staple it down with about 4 inches at both ends here and at the closet. I'm not heating the closet because A, we're gonna have louvered doors on the closet, so there's gonna be some airflow to begin with. And B, these power units supposedly get up to around 95 degrees. So this closet's gonna be 95 degrees when the heat's running. There may actually be heat coming out of the closet. There's no reason to be pumping more heat into the closet. Same down here. This closet's going to have louvered doors. And I don't see any reason to put any heat in the actual closet. Normally it is a good idea to have climate control to keep moisture down, keep fresh air flowing so your clothes don't stink. HVAC guys will run ductwork into closets, especially walk-in closets and pantries. But again, with the louvered doors, I think we're going to be fine. Here goes. I'm going to leave the end free so that I can wire it more easily. You'll see what I mean later in the later part of the video. Alright, I'm just going to keep spreading it out and stapling it like that. I've got the heat down, but I'm kind of not happy with what I did. It's not the product's fault, but I decided to try to make this gap 4 inches and come up alongside the closet. But now there's no room to put the tack strip for the carpet there. So I think I'm going to cut this one short like these other 3 and pull it up and move it over so there's more like a 2 or 3 inch gap on either side of it. And then down here, I guess I got a little careless and I ran this one a little bit crooked. And I've got nice spacing around it here, but we're a little tight to the closet wall there. And again, there's no room for the tack strip. So I think I'm just going to pull the staples out carefully, move it a little bit, and re-staple it so that I'm away from the closet wall. And then I'll be ready to start wiring it up. Alright, it's a new day. I ran a little short on the red wire, so I had to call it quits. I put cardboard down to protect the flooring. I've got 2 of the 3 zones done. And just to refresh everyone's memory, I've got 1 color wire on the left-hand side of each mat, crimped. And we went with the other color wire on the right-hand side. It looks like it's left now because we turned around, but you can see it's the left-hand side. I don't know. But yeah, one end of the wire gets the crimp to the left, the other end of the wire gets the crimp to the right, or vice versa. And now I've got some new red wire, and we're going to go through the crimping process. So I left the end of the mat unstapled so I could have freedom of movement to work on it. I can staple it once it's wired and it won't matter. There's another step after the crimping that needs to be done too that would be easier without it being stapled. I'll show you that in a minute. But first, you're going to take your wire, you strip it obviously, and what I found works best for me is I let gravity hold the crimp in place, and I just give it a little squeeze with the pliers this way and then this way, and now it's on there pretty good, and it'll stay put while I do what else I have to do. Hopefully you can see, but it's obvious where the wire is through the insulation if you look at the coloring and the shape. We'll bring in closer real quick. See how it looks almost like tire marks? And what you want to do is you want to get that crimp right over the top of the tire mark. There's a slot in here. You slide the rubber through the slot with the tire mark where the teeth of the crimp are. Take your crimping tool, give it a squeeze. Once I've crimped it one time, I like to come in and crimp it again. And then I'll come in from the side and crimp it again. And now once this is hooked up, you'll touch these. And if they feel hot, you're not making good contact and you have to re-crimp it. Or you may even have to uninstall this and replace it with a new one. Obviously, we're not wired up yet. We're not working with this live. I don't want to shorten anything out and do damage to the power supply. So we're going to move on to the next one. I'm not usually a fan of this type of wire stripper, but for doing this next splice, in the middle of the wire, it's kind of invaluable. Now I am tacking the wire down with a staple gun that is designed for wire. And you get the wire into this little groove here, and you can't possibly staple the wire by accident if it's in that groove. And I'm just trying to get it to stay put so that I can measure out how much I need. I can run it a little neater and put more staples in later. I'm going to have to try to leave room for the tack strip for the carpet, so I don't want to hug the wall too tightly, but I do want it to stay put at the corners so that I know how much I need to make it to the power supply. You can also use a regular staple gun, but you have to be very careful that you don't put the staple through the wire. So obviously you'd center it up, but I recommend splurging. You can even use these for Christmas lights and stuff. So these staple guns for wire are amazingly handy. They kind of pay for themselves. Highly recommend. 5 stars out of 5. All right, I've run the wire this far. I got a couple staples in it. Now what I like to do is bring it up the wall and out to the end of here, and then with regular wire cutters nip it off. Now with the wire strippers, strip about, I don't know, half an inch. And I'm going to come under this cable TV wire to give you these nice convenient connectors. I don't know how good of a connection they make. We're going to test them. But you stick it in until it bottoms out, and then you shut that door. And now this one should be ready to go. All right. So that one came with the connectors. This third one came with the connectors. The middle one did not. I just used wire nuts. And depending on my voltage readings, we're about to test everything out. I may be taking these off and replacing them with more wire nuts, depending on my voltage readings. So let's go test everything out. I can tell you right now, this one is warm, which means it's doing its job. This one too is warm, but not as warm as this one. So let's find out if it's doing its job. So again, you want to touch these connectors. If they are uncomfortably warm, if you feel like you're going to get burned, you've got a bad connection. And you need to recrimp or undo it and replace the crimp if recrimping doesn't get the job done. Maybe you missed the metal inside. Maybe you had a defect, who knows? All right, none of these are even warm. They're actually kind of chilly. So that's your first test. Now we're gonna do a voltage test and see how much voltage we're getting. The power supply puts out 24 volts AC, so the manufacturer suggests that we want to see between 21 and 24 volts AC at each mat. So we're going to test each one to make sure each one has a good connection. So let me test this first one here. I'm going to poke through into the, I think they refer to it as the bus wire, going through the matting. And I'll poke through over here. And we've got 24 volts. darn near. Looks like 23.8. So that's good. Next. About the same. And I'm going to do that to every mat and make sure they all have a good voltage. And once they do, we'll move on to the next step. Just a quick heads up, guys. If you are getting low voltage, especially on all your mats, before you go crazy re-crimping, go and test the voltage at your power supply. If the power supply voltage is low, you might not be getting the full 110, 120 volts to the power supply, which means you'll never get out what you're supposed to get if you're not putting in what you're supposed to get. So if that's the case, you may have to test your outlet and make sure that your outlet is delivering appropriate voltage before you go crazy. Because the likelihood of every single mat coming up low, kind of unlikely, I would say. All right, I had about 23.5 to 24.5. I'd say I'd had 23 to 23.8 volts at each connection. So none were low, none had to be redone. So now that testing is over, you make your crimps permanent by taking these adhesive strips that come with the flooring. And this is how I'm doing it. I left the mat unstapled for just this reason. I kind of center it up, stick it down, get your wire where you want it, and then stick it to itself. And this way, when you're doing the carpet and the padding over the top of it, or vinyl, laminate, hardwood, whatever you're putting over the top of it, the connection is stationary and should stay solid. We'll do it again over here, just to make sure you got that. It don't get much easier than this. It's tape. You've been doing it since you were a kid. Peel it off the backing. I like to make this as close to a perfect 90 degree as possible so it looks like a T. Stick it down. Fold it over. Seal it up real good around the wire. Real good over the top of the crimp. Real good over the mat. And that's all there is to it. I'll do that to each and every one, and then I'll come back and staple everything down neatly. I can staple the mat, staple the wires. I'm going to leave a little room, again, for the tack strip for the carpet. This room's getting carpet. Just a quick note, if you're doing tile, some people will use that wire mesh, which I actually recommend for a tile job, but you cannot put the wire mesh on top of this flooring system. It'll short it out. I don't know if you saw when I was testing, but I just barely poked my testing probes and it went right through the rubber into the wire and gave me a reading. This is very thin. So do not put the wire mesh on the radiant floor system. It'll short it out and you'll be redoing everything. And you will curse your own existence. It's a friendly little tip from your Uncle Jim. All right, now that all that is all finalized, I can finally staple down the ends of my mats. I'll do that to each one, and then I will make the wires nice and neat. Real quick, just want to let you guys know. So obviously you've got a black wire on one end on this side, you got a red wire on the other end on the other side. And if this is the red wire, this is the black wire, if these two touch, they can short out. So that's why you have to leave a gap in between them and make sure they don't touch, and definitely don't let them overlap. They'll short out for certain. The insulation over this wire is paper thin. And you can see how easily you can poke through it. So be sure to maintain proper spacing between your runs. So according to the manufacturer, you can have about 60 feet of this matting hooked up to one power supply. I don't know. This is probably 6 foot because of the closet. So 6, 12, 24. Maybe 32 feet. On this first transformer. The next transformer has 50 feet. This last one only has 40 feet. There's only 4 runs on the last power supply. And I have some matting left over. So it dawned on me, I am also rehabbing a bathroom across the hallway. It's on a slab. We all know how cold and miserable cement and tile floors are. It does have heat. And I put in an electric fan with heater that's going to be near the shower. But still, there's just something about having toasty toes while you're sitting on the bowl. So I asked my rep, hey, could I run a wire across the hallway and have another 6 feet or so in here? And he said, yeah, as long as you don't exceed 60 feet, you're good. So over there is less than 40 feet. There's no way I could fit 20 feet in this room. I think the matting I have is like 4 foot and a 3 foot piece. So I basically want to do right across here with one mat and then another piece over here in front of the toilet. No one's going to walk over there. The sink is going to be here. The shower is going to be there. It has a fiberglass shower pan that'll get you up off the floor. And yeah, so I think I'm just going to add on. This closet is on the other side of the wall from that closet. So I can run my wires under here. This will be carpeted eventually. And then I'll run my wire under here. I'm not sure what kind of flooring's going down. I'm going to leave the wire coiled up in here where it's safe. And I'll tape off the end so it can't short out until we are ready to run the wire across the floor here and put the matting down over the new concrete that has to be poured after this trench is filled. So that's the game plan to what's over here. So if you can see, I uncoupled the crimp and I put a new crimp on the wire. The original piece coming in from the left, a new piece coming out from the right. They're twisted together in here and crimped together. I'm going to crimp this on, and I'll put that in the closet, and we'll take it from there. So I simply took the old crimp while it was still on. I got my wire cutter blades between the pieces and squeezed it, pried it open. And then I got my blades between the pieces here and squeezed it and pried it open. And that got the wires out. And now I'm gonna put them in the new one. They're already tucked in there. I did the little trick I showed you before. I have the power off right now. But those are temporarily squeezed with pliers, so they'll stay put. I'll push that down a little bit so the crimper has a good bite. Okay, come in for a better bite. Come in from this side. All right, and you can see I left this unstapled because I knew I was going to do this. Now this is the only place that isn't stapled. I'm going to put my tape on. Oh wait, you know what? Let me plug it in and take a voltage reading. Okay, let's see what our voltage says. All right, we got, let's say 22.5, 23 volts AC. So that is good. It's over 21. Between 21 and 24 is what we're looking for. Obviously I did the same thing with the black wire at the other end of the mat. And that too will run into the closet, where it will await its duties in the bathroom. No pun intended. Bathroom duties. Yeah. I should have chosen my wording more carefully. Oh well, you live and you learn. All right. So now that is all set to go, and this room is ready for me to spackle now, because it's going to be warm enough to have the spackle dry. I've stapled down all the wire. This is my first experience with the product. I think in the future, if you look here, I had a little bit of slack, so I had to kind of run it wavy to gobble up the slack. I would obviously measure a little bit more carefully next time and make it neater. This mat has the closet in the way. I cut it out because I figured this is made to be stepped on, and it doesn't care that that wire is a foot shorter than this wire. I'm trying to keep everything, I want to leave enough room for the tack strip, but I want to keep everything out of where foot traffic is. No one's going to be walking through here, obviously. I had no choice but to go across the doorway here to keep these mats supplied with power, but I avoided where you would stand when you are working in the breaker box. And you can see I've got the power supplies mounted up. I've got the wires stapled nice and neat. I don't have a staple gun big enough for the cords, so I'm going to have to use something a little bit bigger to neaten these up and dress them up. But they will be taken care of, as will this cable TV wire and that roll of Ethernet wire. I put the little slack that I had coiled up down here because I foolishly had already stapled this. And I think if I had it to do over again, I was in a bit of a rush to get this heat going so that I could spackle and make the room warm enough for the spackle to dry. If I had to do over again, I would have taken my time, ran it very carefully, came up here, did 2 coils of slack, came up here, 2 coils of slack, and so forth and so on. So if I ever had to resplice or fix anything, there would be a little bit of wire to play with. I don't like having it on the ground, but this is not going to be a storage closet. It's a utility closet. Nothing is to be stored in here. So there's going to be matting and then carpet. It's low voltage. In a jam, I guess you could pick the carpet up, splice the wire, run it against the wall closer, because the tack strip will be in then, so there won't be any guessing where the tack strip will be. But I don't see it being an issue. Like I said, this closet should only be open once in a blue moon when you need access to the breaker box. And this room's a little drafty because of the breaker box, but these are nice and toasty. Each one feels like a warm summer day. And I'm pretty confident that they're going to heat up the air inside the closet. I also obviously neatened up the wires on this side. Same thing, stapled them down. Left myself 3 or 4 inches for the tack strip. And that's about it. The room is nice and toasty. I'd say it's probably, I don't know, maybe 72 to 74. And I'm happy with the product. This was my first time using it, but I don't think it'll be my last time. So it's a month later, give or take, and I'm revisiting my warm floor installation. The carpet has gone in. I've made a mess. I neatened up the wiring in the closet. And I have a couple, I'm not going to call them complaints, but we're going to call them critiques. I was told that it would maintain temperature on its own, that it was self-regulating. Well, when it was 20 degrees outside, it was nice and cozy, maybe 72 or 74, somewhere around there in here. And it was lovely, perfect. But then it heated up to about 60 degrees outside, and then it felt like it was about 80 in here. And it was getting uncomfortable, and I was sweating. We had to unplug it. Then when it cooled off later, we had to plug it back in. So I wish they would have some kind of a regulator or a thermostat. I was going to wire one in, hardwire one, maybe to the receptacle or maybe in line, like the kind they use for baseboard heat, for 220 baseboard heat. But as I was searching for the $20 thermostat to hardwire, I found this one for $30. It's plug and play. It handles up to 15 amps. Just a refresher, each of these is 3 amps, so that's 9 amps. I got this little power strip to give me 4 plugs. I only need 3, which were regulated by that thermostat. Here you see an optional antenna that I plugged in and ran up the wall to the ceiling. And it responds to this remote, which gives you the temperature of the room, the temperature where it will begin to run, and the temperature where it will shut off. It's all programmable. It came in Celsius. I had a heck of a time figuring out how to get it into Fahrenheit. And then it wouldn't respond to me, but I read the instructions. I know, why didn't I think of that first? And it said to give it a few minutes to normalize and then it would respond. And that's exactly what it did. So now I've got this plugged in and we are testing out this thermostat to see if I can keep it comfortable in here and regulate the temperature. I'm doing some more finish work to make the room inhabitable. You can see the carpet went down. So just a few quick specs. We put this in. It has done a tremendous job of keeping the room warm. Like I said, a little bit too good on hot days outside. My customer said he noticed about a $100 boost in his electric bill for the month, which I think as far as electric heat goes, you'd be a lot higher than that if he had put in electric baseboard heat. And again, it was running 24/7 and it made the room blazing hot. I think that with this thermostat, you're going to see savings. I think it's going to just run when it's cold. It's going to shut off when it's warm. I think it's going to be a vast improvement. I'm going to guesstimate 40%. I'm going to guess maybe it'll drop his electric bill from $100 more than normal to $50, $60 more than normal. But we'll see. That's my guess. We'll see how we do. That's going to conclude this video, but I will get back to you on what kind of savings we see now with this thermostat installed.